The guy who is the podcast king. It's ironic how iconic he makes everything. He has style, he has flair, and that hair. I'm talking about our Danny.
Hello, welcome to Everything Iconic. I'm Danny Pellegrino, and that song that you just heard was a very special opening homage to The Nanny, which is, of course, Fran Drescher's sitcom. Now, for my birthday last year, somebody online at Christos Lucas got me this video from Cameo of Liz Calloway, who sang the original Nanny theme song. She did a remixed version for me for my birthday, so I thought I'd play it in our intro because we have one of my dream guests, like on my vision board dream guest list, is Queen icon legend Fran Drescher. She's on the show today. Of course, you might know her from The Nanny. You might know her from Happily Divorced. She's also on a new sitcom that has its season finale this Thursday night on NBC. You can also watch all the episodes from this season on Hulu, so check that out. She has Cancer Schmancer, which is her organization. You can find out more about that at cancerschmancer.org. We talk about it all. We talk about The Nanny reboot, The Nanny on Broadway. We talk about The Beautician and the Beast, which is one of my favorite movies. This was such a delight for me, so I hope you guys enjoy my chat with Fran Drescher. Before I play it for you all, I want to say please find me on social media at Danny Pellegrino on Twitter and Instagram. I also want to say if you're looking for the Bravo recap, I'll have an episode out on late Thursday or early Friday morning with all of our Bravo recaps. So it'll be worth the wait. I promise we'll talk about all the Bravo shows, and I have a couple of very special guests. So stay tuned for that on Friday. And in the meantime, I hope you enjoy this chat with the one and only Fran Drescher.
Hello.
Hi, Fran.
Hi.
Hi, it's so nice to meet you over the phone. I gotta say, I'm a little bit nervous because I am such a huge fan of yours.
Well,
I love you.
That's really sweet.
I love you, and The Nanny is like medicine to me. It's truly, I thank you. But
did you see the reunion?
Yeah, the YouTube. I mean, it's over 1 million views. I loved it.
Well, it's actually over 3 million because it's not just on YouTube. It's on a Latin American channel that started, I think, in South America, and there's an Italian channel where it's subtitled in Italian. So Peter's been tracking it, and he said that it's like 3.5 million already, and it's only been like, what, a week and a half or something?
I mean, can you believe that after all these years, people like myself, we love it so much still?
It's just incredible that, I mean, this is what it feels like to be part of classic TV that endures the test of time. I feel so blessed. And if for some reason my dog is like all over me suddenly, and I don't want to disconnect you, but if she does accidentally, just call back, okay?
I will. Well, first of all, how are you doing throughout all of this craziness, and where are you? Are you in California or?
Yes, I'm in California on the beach, which I'm grateful for because, it's a wide open space and there's lots of fresh air and clean air, and I have the beach, and I have this wonderful rescue dog that I got just days before the world went mad.
Right.
And she's, been a true blessing, and that's why I called her Angel Grace.
Oh.
Right? Are you an Angel Grace? Are you Mama's Angel?
Well, I had read that you said anyone who is alone, they should look into getting a dog right now because particularly at this time, it's important not to be alone.
A cat, or even a bird, anything really.
Right.
I've got wild birds that I feed all the time. They live on the property. And I've got fish in a big aquarium, and I've got this wonderful dog. And I've actually never adopted an adult dog before. I've always gotten puppies, but my dog, Samson, suddenly died of a stroke.
I'm sorry.
And it was extremely traumatic for me. I really plummeted into a terrible, dark place. And after a couple of days of that, lots of crying, in the middle of the night, I kind of reached my arms up to the heavens and prayed to please help me out of this darkness. And then suddenly I opened my computer, which I rarely do, and found myself on Pet Finders. And there she was. And I wanted a big walking dog because I'd never really had that, but I'm a distance walker. And I thought, a lot of times I don't go because I don't have someone to go with. And if I had a big dog, I wouldn't need to always have a walking partner. So I wanted a big dog, and she was so beautiful. And
that's great.
It turns out that they had only just posted her that day because she was recovering from surgery after getting hit by a car. And
so it was meant to be.
At the what?
It was meant to be.
It was totally meant to be. There were so many signs from the universe that were pointing us in the direction. And the first time we met, I went the next day to the rescue place to meet her. She wasn't ready to be taken home because she still had to get spayed. They're not allowed to release them unspayed. And but I kneeled down to pet her, and she literally pushed me to the ground on my back and straddled me.
Oh.
And kissed my whole face. And I said to the guy, have you ever seen this before? And he said, no, I've never seen it. And your friend should take a video of this and we'll show it to the executive director because this is your dog.
Right. Well, dogs are so healing. Dogs, cats, animals are so healing. And I think especially at this time, it's nice
at this time, and it's so great to bond with an animal now. Although they're getting a very warped sense of what life is.
Right.
She and I are, it's just the two of us. We never leave the property.
Well, there's nowhere to go right now. What are you doing on your property? I saw on your Instagram you're cooking a lot.
I'm cooking, I'm cleaning.
Yeah.
It's a big house, and I don't have help anymore. I've never cleaned so much, it's like, and I'm injuring myself cleaning, just like my mom used to do. And I used to yell at her, what do you need to clean so much for? Stop cleaning. But when you don't have someone to help you clean your house, it gets, even one person, it gets dirty. And I have white floors, and the floors start to get dirty, and the dog tracked mud in and then jumped on the bed, and it's everything, and it's every day something else. Folding laundry, doing laundry, washing floors, vacuuming floors, dishwasher, taking care of the animals. It's really,
it's a lot.
I always had a high regard for the homemaker because my mom was such a great one, and I feel like I am too. But because I also have a career outside of the home, I've always had, my familia, a couple who, has been with me for a quarter of a century.
Yeah.
And, we're growing old together, but they help me with the house.
Yeah.
But now they're not coming over.
Yeah. Well, you mentioned your parents, and I used to love when your parents were on the Rosie O'Donnell show, and you too, but of course I loved when they would do the restaurant reviews, and I was such a huge fan of the Rosie show, and so I just loved seeing them. It was so wonderful.
Well, for like the last 2 years, I've been urging them to get onto an immune system boosting program.
Okay.
Because this is the cancer schmancer way.
Sure.
And if you live, offensively by means of, not doing anything that's going to compromise your immune system, but doing everything that's going to bolster it to operate at an optimal and vibrancy, then you have an excellent fighting chance at not getting sick.
Right.
across the board, including Corona.
Right.
I mean, but this has a lot to do with what you eat
What do you
and what is in your home.
Right.
How many toxins do you surround yourself with, from your personal care items, your toothpaste, your skincare items, to, what you clean with, what you garden with. The level of toxins that Americans expose themselves to, and foods that are industrial farmed, that are completely poisoned with agrochemicals, or animal protein that's also being fed GMO grain, living Dickensian lives, being pumped with growth hormones and antibiotics. I mean, people have to wake up. This is a wake-up call. The people that are really becoming victimized are the ones that have a compromised immune system.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, we are confronted with trillions of viruses every time we breathe.
Right.
Everywhere. There are far more viruses than human cells on this planet. We're nothing but a little tiny speck compared to everything else that's going on between bacteria and viruses.
And what do you think, Fran? Fran, what do you think is like the number one thing you would want to tell people in terms of their diet? Like if we're just focusing on food, what's the one thing you would say to people to say, hey, you should take that out of your diet immediately? Would you say pop or soda, or is there something else? Like what's one huge offense?
If you want to do individual things, definitely soda is a terrible thing. It's a pure acid beverage that has absolutely no redeeming qualities. It can only hurt you. But in a general sense, do not eat anything unless it's organic, period. Everything else is going to be high in multiple pesticides and herbicides, including glyphosate, which is Roundup, but it comes under other names like Liberty. And, it's just, this is one of the worst agrochemicals that have ever been introduced to the planet. And it's water soluble, so it sinks down into the watershed, and it's terrible. And we have to put industrial farms out of business. And truth be told, the Farm Bill should be a bill to encourage all farmers to regenerate their farms and convert them. Because none of this is serving us well, and it's completely unsustainable.
Right.
And this is an opportunity. I mean, the biggest lessons in life are hard learned.
Right.
And they usually come through a lot of pain. That's why they call it growing pains. And it's really time for us to look at what we're eating, what we're bringing into our home, and the level of electromagnetic fields. I mean, people are so easily numbed down and dumbed down.
Right.
It's bad.
Right.
And all I do is try and, educate, motivate, and activate them into becoming more mindful consumers, because therein lies the answer.
I heard you in an interview. As I was doing my research, you were saying people under the age of 18, they might not be able to vote, but they do have a voice and they do have a vote. And you were saying because they can vote with their wallet and what they buy. And I found that very interesting, because I never thought of it that way.
We have a WTF, We the Future subgroup of Cancer Schmancer that targets teens and tweens. And we have a wonderful education video that I made with Jamie Foxx and a bunch of kids. And it's on the website. And it's, kids don't vote. They don't pay tax. They don't wield a lot of influence in Washington for those two reasons. However, they are a multi-billion-dollar spending demographic. And if we can educate them into becoming mindful consumers rather than mindless consumers, we can stop the prediction that this generation will not live as long as their parents for the first time in U.S. history.
Which is a terrible statistic. I mean, the thought of that is...
We don't want to make it a self-fulfilling prophecy.
Right.
They have to stop this. If everybody, that what they buy and what they don't buy becomes not only their vote, but also their protest.
Sure.
And if they stop being seduced by marketing strategies that are targeting them but don't really give a shit about them at all, then, it's like, stop using vape pens, stop drinking soda, stop eating processed foods, stop, eating industrial farm foods, because it's actually slowly killing you.
Well, you know what, Fran, you've honestly convinced me. I'm gonna next time I go to the grocery store, we have to go this week. I'm gonna look at what I'm buying a little bit closer, of course, because I think you're right. It's so important. I hope you don't mind, but I have to tell you a quick story. Switching gears a bit, I recently had appendicitis, and my nurse, when I was in the hospital, this was about 2 months ago. My nurse's name was Fran, and I was so excited because I'm such a huge fan of yours and, of course, the nanny. And so when I went in for the surgery, you know how normally the anesthesiologist, they make you count down from 5. Well, they had told me afterwards that I was just singing the nanny theme song.
Oh, is that sweet?
And so
what?
Oh, I was just
Can I ask you something?
Please.
What were you going to say?
I was going to say, so one of the other nurses who wasn't named Fran was singing along with me before I went under, and they told me about it afterwards.
That's so sweet. You're adorable.
Oh, thank you.
Let me ask you something.
Yeah.
You had an appendectomy, right?
I did. Yes.
Okay, so, when I had my hysterectomy after my uterine cancer surgery, they just arbitrarily removed my appendix and didn't discuss it with me.
Mm-hmm.
And as a consequence of that, I, deal with managing chronic inflammation, which is very bad, any kind of inflammation. Whenever I meet somebody and they always have something, whether it be allergies, asthma, something that seems like it's acid reflux, but none of the acid reflux pills work, or swelling, or arthritis, or a million things that seem like it's maybe autoimmune, I always say to them, do you have your appendix? And if I tell you 9 out of 10 times, they say no. And it took me more than a decade to figure out what the hell was suddenly wrong with me. And
it was
in the functional medical world, which is what I embrace, which looks at the body as a whole system, in spite of the fact that my surgeon said you don't need your appendix anyway, in the functional medical world, it's widely considered the brains of your lymphatic system. So my lymphatic system got a lobotomy.
Right.
And as a result of that, it's hard for my body to, on its own, get rid of, the toxins, which is what your lymphatic system is supposed to do.
Interesting.
And that creates soft tissue inflammation I have sometimes. So, and I went to so many different doctors here in this country, and, they look at the spot that's revealing itself and as being whatever, inflamed or upset somehow. and then they try and give you a pill to suppress that symptom.
Mm-hmm.
And nobody's really looking at the causation. Then I go to Vienna, Austria, to get a Lifetime Achievement Award. And by the grace of God, I throw my back out in my hotel room and call the concierge and said, you got to get me a doctor because I really can't move.
Mm-hmm.
And, I have to show up at this event because I filled a room on my name, and it's a cancer organization. I don't want to disappoint them.
Mm-hmm.
So the doctor comes, a woman. This is after seeing like a half a dozen doctors, and nobody had each doctor that I saw gave me a different prescriptive drug. I went to a rheumatologist, a cardiologist, a pulmonologist, an internist, you name it, and an allergist, and nobody could really explain it, but they all had their pet prescription to suppress the symptoms. This woman, because my hands were all swollen, and I was noticing that it happened very consistently when I traveled.
Mm-hmm.
I showed her my hands because why not? She's there anyway.
Yeah.
And she says, it just so happens I'm a dermatologist, but I was on call for the hotel. And she said to me, you look like you have a histamine problem. And I said, what's that? I went to the best allergist at UCLA. She said, this is not an allergy. This is your body's inability to metabolize histamines. Well, I never even heard of this. Nobody even ever mentioned this in all of the U.S. with all the doctors that I saw. And she said, I said, well, how do I know if this is it? She said, well, go online and look up no histamine diets and do it for like a month. Find, print them all up. You'll see like 3 probably different ones and do the strictest version across the board of all 3 combined.
Okay.
And after like a month, if all your symptoms go away, you'll know that's what it is. And sure enough, that's exactly what happened. And now I realize that histamines, your body produces histamines, so when you're in a toxic environment like an airplane, your body's going to just on its own start producing histamines, and you're not in control of it. And if your body can't get rid of it or metabolize them, then I'm going to see a reaction somehow. And the reaction varies. It's not always the same reaction, but I've come to see the whole scenario. I've come to know my body now. And I know when it's something, whether it's in my knee or my elbow or my hands or around the heart sac or around the lung sac, it's always one of like a dozen things.
I literally have chills right now because since I had my appendix taken out, I've traveled a few times and I notice I get a lot of swelling in my legs, which I never had before. And then also I noticed on my face, there's like my lymph nodes on one side of my face in particular tend to swell up more than they ever did. And these are
You mean under your jawline?
Yes.
When you say your face, under your jawline. Okay. Yep, look at this. See how things are meant to be? Every time I talk to somebody that doesn't have their appendix, let me tell you something. We need our appendix. You had to have yours probably taken out. I mean, I don't know. They don't even try and heal it in typical Western medicine. But now that you know, and now that I know, and maybe some of your listeners can benefit from this, I cannot really drink anymore because alcohol has a lot of histamines in it. So, once in a blue moon, I'll treat myself to a really good glass of wine. But honestly, I can't do it because I see the difference. Also, fish has a lot of histamines in it. Berries have a lot of histamines in it. Citrus fruits have a lot of histamines in it. Stone fruits. Now, I can have all of that in limited quantities now because I know how to manage it. Tea has a lot of histamines. You know, you got to learn what foods have a lot of histamines. And then you got to learn that you're going to go into toxic environments like airports, airplanes, offices where the windows don't open. And you're going to also potentially have a reaction as well. So, you know, managing the level of histamines, and also if your body produces a lot of cortisol, that will also increase your inflammation. So, you know, there's a lot of managing that we have to start being educated to doing. We have to honor our body. Right. We have to manage it on a daily basis because the immune system, going back to the immune system now, it's just such a beautifully perfect situation where the body can defend itself. But not if you're not going to honor it. Sure. If you're not going to honor it, then it's going to start degrading. And you're not going to be prepared for a situation like this with a pandemic, a virus that nobody has an antigen to because we've not seen this virus yet. And as the polar ice caps keep melting, as they keep scaling down rainforests, as they keep digging miles into the earth with fracking, we're going to see a lot of things that have been buried dormant for millennia coming, surfacing into the air.
Right.
And, you know, viruses, they're not, you know, like this thing is not a living thing like bacteria. It floats around and finds a cell and implants itself in the cell, and then it changes the DNA of the cell.
Right.
And then the body starts attacking it, and then you're at risk of getting an inflammasome situation where, you know, the lungs start filling up with fluid because it can't take this. So I've been doing a lot of research with all the doctors that I deal with, and next week I think we're going to put up, I'm doing a Corona Care for You interview series on cancerschmancer.org, and all of our advisory board, medical board doctors on interviewing, and it's so, you know, educating and empowering in a time of fear and confusion.
That's so important because I think the messaging that we're getting oftentimes on TV is so mixed, and we do need to hear from experts and people telling us what to do or what we can do.
Exactly. Because, look, you know, going back to Western medicine is reductionist. What does that mean? They look at the end symptom and try and fix that. So you have a cancer, they'll cut the cancer out. They're not going to look at why the body, what happened to the body that a cancer was able to grow. They're just going to try and deal with that. And that's the equivalent of, like, you have an apple tree and the tree is bearing, you know, like rotten apples. What are you going to do? Try and heal every apple? No, you got to look at what's wrong with the tree. What's wrong with the roots? What is hurting this tree that it's yielding rotten apples? But we don't do that in Western medicine, and I don't know whether it's because what's being practiced now is a derivative of war medicine, where it's also like emergency room medicine, where that makes sense. Okay, you're out in the front lines in a war, you get shot. Yeah, go
fix
to
them
the
right
site.
Away.
Exactly. But the level of chronic illness and cancers and that we're experiencing is we must look at causation. We must understand that we are hurting ourselves. I was just telling Peter, he gets like a pesticide spraying on his house, and he said, I think it's just on the outside. And I said, outside, inside. The bugs keep coming. You kill these, and then next month you got to come back to kill the next batch. But what's the common denominator here? You're living in the house the whole time, and it's slowly degrading your health.
Right.
And you have to stop it. You cannot, somewhere along the line, war chemicals became imposed on civilian life because they wanted to keep making money.
Yeah.
And we got into the idea that we have to spray everything to not have bugs instead of learning to live with bugs and seeing how rich they make the soil and how there's a whole ecosystem. I have ants. Then I have spiders. The spiders eat the ants.
Right.
And that's it. There's an ecosystem right there. I'm not going to poison myself to try and kill these creatures. It's an illusion that I'm in this house with walls and I can possibly keep out bugs. The house is made of wood. It's just sitting on land. It's so crazy. Someone once said to me, well, how do you get rid of the weeds in your garden? And it's like, really? Get down on your hands and knees, if you must, and pull them out. But the truth of the matter is weeds hold on to water in a very healthy way so you don't get this runoff and you're wasting water. And
there's a purpose.
Most of them are flowering and beautiful.
Yeah.
You don't need to have your land look like a fake green carpet. It's like, who said that was,
Yeah.
I mean, people are always going to these beautiful national parks that are not manicured. They're just wild. And everything old is new again. We got to revert back to a simpler time.
Fran, I feel like I'm learning so much. I could sit and listen to you forever. I do have a couple other questions if you don't mind. But
okay, yes.
I would listen to you for hours.
Stories.
I love it.
I'm sorry. Okay.
No, don't. I legit love it. I just don't want to keep you too long. But I do want to talk about one thing that I'm obsessed with in the movie is Beautician and the Beast, which I think a lot of gay men like myself are obsessed with. And it wasn't super successful when it came out, but I think it's endured. And my friends and I, we talk about it all the time. Can you tell me, is there a good memory from that movie?
Yeah, you know what happened? I mean, it was disappointing because it's a really good movie. And in fact, Sherry Lansing, who was the president of Paramount at the time, said years later, I wish every movie was like that one because it has been such a consistent earner for the studio. And most movies are not blockbusters. So the rest of them are just like they peter out and they really don't, pay for themselves or make that much money. But yours, has consistently made money. Unfortunately, for some reason, and I think it was political, Howard Stern's movie was supposed to come out, and they pulled it because he probably said, and I don't know, I'm just assuming, but that was the weekend that they were re-releasing the original Star Wars.
Star Wars, right.
20 years later. And I don't know whether everybody thought that it would do the around-the-block lineup business that it did. Maybe Howard did, or maybe they did. And they thought, well, they'll slip my movie in instead of Howard's, because maybe it's a different audience or something. And, but
it lives on though, and it's so funny. It's so warm, just like everything you do. It's just got I always describe them as like comfort food movies or feeling like a warm hug. Like that's the movie I put on when I need something to cheer me up. Like that will
Oh,
instantly
that's
cheer
so
me up.
great. Well, Peter was involved in that, and Todd Graff, our dear friend, and Frank Lombardi, all these guys, write my voice so well, and we're all friends for so many years, like probably almost, between like 35 and
Wow.
25 years. It's just amazing. And for Peter and I, even longer. I mean, we know each other many, we
And
met
he's
when
your
we were
just for the audience, he's your
15.
gay ex-husband. So just for the listeners.
Yes. and I mean, I think that we're so close. We kind of have acknowledged that, we're still in many ways so emotionally intertwined
Sure.
that it makes it difficult to meet somebody else because, first of all, we have each other.
Mm-hmm. But that's good. I mean, that's a great relationship. That's what you look for in a partner. So that's great.
You know what? Life unfolds. Who's to say this is the way it played out for us?
Yeah.
And it is what it is. And we're grateful we have each other.
I love that.
Very grateful. We talk about, in our old age, living in the same building, if not the same apartment.
I love that. And we need to see that TV show eventually, too.
Well, that was Happily Divorced, and those
Yes,
schmucks took it off. And Peter found
Happily Divorced was so good, too. I don't know why it went off.
Oh, people are always coming up to me and saying, I miss that show so much. Why did they take it off? Well, now there's a YouTube channel called Honey Ha Ha. And they have all the episodes with no commercials. And Peter keeps sending me links and to me and my parents, and we sit on our cell phones and watch it and laugh out loud. I forgot how great it was.
It was really great. I watched every episode.
And it explored a relationship that had never been explored before.
I think it's still on Hulu, or at least when I watched it was all on Hulu. And I know
maybe it's on Hulu, and I think Living with Fran is.
Yep, that's on Hulu.
On Hulu, maybe. They also have Indebted, and I think The Nanny is on Roku as well as Cozy.
I know, and I was going to ask you how, because I know on Roku it's the first 2 seasons of The Nanny, but how do we get all of the seasons on?
Oh, really? I didn't realize that.
Yeah, it's just like the first 2, but I think we need like the whole series because it's so good.
Set.
I know, I have the box set, so you're preaching to the converted. But
I mean, that's the way to get the box set, but. Look, because the reunion thing was such a success, and so many fans keep saying, why isn't it on Netflix? Maybe Sony will be able to sell it as an entire series to Netflix next, which would be great.
I think we need it so much. And I know you've sort of mentioned another type of reunion. You said you're working on The Nanny for Broadway, which is so exciting. And then
they finally let us announce it, in a limited amount of information. But yeah, that's going to be amazing. And Rachel Bloom is writing the songs.
Sure.
And Peter and I wrote the book, and
are you happy with the book? Are you happy with how it all is coming along?
Very.
Oh, I can't wait.
It's laugh out loud funny, and we were so scared. Who are we going to get to write the lyrics that's going to capture the tone of the series? Because very funny musical composers are a rare commodity. And then along comes Rachel Bloom, this phenom from Crazy Ex-Girlfriend.
So brilliant.
That she created and executive produced, by the way, and starred in, like I did with The Nanny. And we're off to the races because she's perfect for us.
And you mentioned that there's like a possibility, I don't know if this is true or going to happen, but you mentioned that like Mr. Sheffield in the show was a Broadway producer. Like, is there a way to bring it back to TV in conjunction with the Broadway play? Like, is that something you're maybe looking into?
That was Peter's brilliant idea that
So
as we get closer to the show, it would be great to help promote the Broadway show through the television series, because the show on Broadway could be Mr. Sheffield's show.
Yeah. It would be perfect.
And then you do crossover. But that's a little bit of a ways off, and I'm doing Indebted, which, by the way...
Which I love, too.
The big series season finale, not series. Season finale is Thursday. So everybody watch it.
Everybody watch it. Last week was truly the best episode when you became the life coach. Oh, my God, I was laughing so hard.
Yeah, that was good. Thank you. Yeah, it takes... They gotta figure it out, and it takes a little while. And I'm not producing or writing on it, which is a little bit of a frustration because I miss wearing those hats.
Sure.
And I wouldn't do this again because I can't deal with not wearing all the hats, which is why I became a producer in the first place.
Yeah.
But somehow I did it. I agreed to become a part of the cast, and I love the cast, and I love the producers, and I love NBC, and so, I love Sony. That's my parent company with the nanny. Yeah. So, I love, the paycheck.
Sure.
And my parents are happy, and that makes me happy, too, because Unhappily Divorced, half their friends could never find it on their cable channel, and everybody can find the Peacock network. So it all is fine, and I hope that people tune in. And I'm going to do a live thing with Adam Pally, the star who plays my son.
Sure, love him.
On his Instagram, like an hour before the show begins on both the East and West Coast. So check that out too, Adam Pally, and
I can't wait.
And then we're also going to release on all our social media, and mine is official Fran Drescher, or on Twitter at Fran Drescher, and the blooper reel, which is going to be. I've seen it. They did such a good job of. It's so funny, and
your cast
really
is so hilarious. I mean, everyone, Abby Elliott and Adam Pally and you.
Love her so much. I mean, I love them all. Yeah. It's such a sweet group of people. I love each one of them. It's like that is also a blessing. Because if you had one rotten apple, I'd have to quit.
Right.
I couldn't deal with it.
Yeah.
But they're all so sweet and loving and talented, and I just adore them, and that makes it all so pleasant.
Speaking of social media, have you seen the account I think it's at What Fran Wore, where it's all of your outfits from the nanny?
Yeah, Fran Wore is one. There's nanny art.
I mean, isn't it the best?
What?
It's the best, isn't it? Like, does it make you feel good that, I mean, we all worship you in the nanny.
Cooper, who actually was the designer of the show and won an Emmy for it, she's got her own Instagram. I think it's Brenda Cooper. If you look up Brenda Cooper, you can find it, or Style with Brenda Cooper, something like that. But she posts pictures that even What Fran Wore doesn't put that, she's got all the original kind of photos
like
that we did at wardrobe fittings and stuff. And she's slowly building her own following, which is nice. she's writing a book right now on style, and
Well,
we're still friends.
I watch a lot of sitcoms, and I love the classic sitcom, of course, I Love Lucy, Mary Tyler Moore, all of the classics, and The Nanny included. And one of the things that I think was so brilliant about The Nanny is there's so many little touches that I think were probably due to you and Peter, of course, because you created it. But like the animated opening, the music, the outfits, like there was all these touches that I think are so important that oftentimes sitcoms forget to do.
Yes. Oh, I know. And that was what was that's what Peter and I were just talking about that when we were watching Happily Divorced, and my mom was saying, it's such a great show, and I said, that show has the Peter Fran touch that The Nanny had. And these people just forget that it's a visual media, and we like to create eye candy.
Sure. And there was eye candy.
And I think that sitcoms should be a true escape.
Mm-hmm.
So, look, there's a place for everything. There are certainly a lot of very successful shows where, they don't live in a mansion and they don't wear incredible clothes like Big Bang Theory.
Mm-hmm.
But for our stamp is always going in all the things, the directions of the things that you picked up on. Right. And, that's our brand.
It's so good. It's so good. Now, Fran, I also have to ask you about your sister-in-law, if you don't mind, Aviva Drescher, who I know from The Real Housewives of New York. And I had heard somewhere that you had filmed a scene for The Real Housewives of New York. Is that true?
I have a children's book called Being Wendy.
Okay.
By Penguin, and when it was coming out, we had a book party at a beautiful kind of candy store in New York City, and she was doing Real Housewives of New York at the time, so she wanted to come with her family, of course, to the candy store because it's a fun place anyway.
Yeah.
Besides the fact that I was there, like signing books and things. And so she asked, I guess it was Andy Cohen or something, if, they wanted to have a camera crew come because, she was a Real Housewife and it was what she was doing.
Right.
And they did. They covered her going to the thing. I don't know how it ever got worked in or if they even used it, but she is married to my first cousin, and
Okay.
And we're very close. She's very plugged into living healthily, as am I.
Right.
So that's a big, common denominator with us. And we're always very interested in sharing information.
That's great. That's great. Well, okay, now I also, real quickly, you said you have the 6 S's you look for in a man. Can you share with the listeners, like, what those 6 S's are or what you look for in a man?
Okay, so let's see if we can remember them together. So it's sexy, smart,
straight,
successful, single, straight,
very important,
and sane.
Sane. Which, who's sane these days? I mean, right? It's hard to stay sane.
Wait, you're breaking up a little bit. What was that last thing you said?
Oh, I just said, who's sane these days? We're all struggling to stay sane.
Well, there's crazy and there's crazy, and it's got to work for you. And if it doesn't, then it doesn't. And I've had both, so you got to find the kind of sanity that works for you, knowing that nothing's perfect and no one's perfect. But those are the successes for the Franny.
I love it. Fran, this was such a delight for me. You have no idea. I'm such a huge fan. So thank you for taking the time. Finally.
Well, I appreciate, you giving me the opportunity to talk about health. I hope everybody goes to cancerschmancer.org. We are posting such viewer-friendly stuff. You're not going to believe it, and it's all free, though we welcome donations because our fundraisers had to be canceled. And watch Indebted Thursday, and go to Adam Pally, and he's going to interview me first at 8:30.
And Indebted, too, is available on Hulu. All of the episodes are there as well.
Yeah, isn't that great?
It's great. It's great. So as you leave, Fran, is there a quote or a lesson? Everyone's cooped up at home, and a lot of people are struggling with anxiety and depression. Is there something, a lesson that you hang on to that you might be able to share with people who are out there listening and they're struggling a little bit with everything we're going through?
Well, first of all, see this as an opportunity to change your lifestyle and start honoring your body by exposing it to non-toxic everything. And secondly, appreciate the fact that within every dark cloud there is a silver lining and an opportunity to grow on your journey of self-refinement, which is why I always say, and I'm a cancer survivor and a rape survivor, and I always say, sometimes the best gifts come in the ugliest packages.
That's beautiful. Fran, thank you. This was a delight. Everyone's going to watch Indebted this week, the finale. Watch it on Hulu if you want to catch up, and follow Fran on social media. You are just the best. I love you so much. I just thank you for all of the things that you've given us.
I hope I get to meet you. Are you in New York?
I'm in L.A.
Oh, you're in L.A. Okay.
Yeah.
Well, you should come to our Masterclass Health Summit. That's usually October, November time.
I am there.
Yeah, it's so mind-blowing.
I would love to. I'm so fascinated.
Well, nice chatting with you.
Nice chatting. Thank you, Fran.
And
have a great
be
day.
Well.
Stay safe.
Take care of yourself.
I will. And I'm going to go look up the antihistamine diet because I think I need it. So thank you.
Yeah, you definitely need it. You know, it's good to know.
Yeah.
And
You're the best.
you know, that all this stuff is, you know, go to cancerschmancer.org, sign up, it's free.
Right.
And then you'll find out about all the stuff that's going on.
Education, we all need the education. Thank you, Fran.
You're so welcome.
Have a good one. Bye-bye.
Do well.
You too.
Yeah.